Welcome back for another SABR report here on Houston City Beat. I'm Mike Acosta alongside Joe Thompson, the president of the Larry Durker chapter of SABR Houston. And we're also joined by Bob Dorrill, the president emeritus of SABR Houston. Gentlemen, welcome on into another episode.
Nice to be here. Nice to be here, Mike.
This is
Bob,
exciting for me. Yeah.
Bob, this is your first time with us on the SABR report. How are you doing? You are the president emeritus, and a lot of people may know you out there that are watching this, but tell us a little background here about yourself.
Well, I've been with SABR since 1982, believe it or not, and it's allowed me to have some special activities. For example, I'm on the Hall of Fame selection committee for the Astros, and as such, I was invited to Phil Garner's 70th birthday a week ago, which was really outstanding because it's a celebration of Phil's birthday, plus the celebration of the 2005 World Series team.
Yeah, it was really good to see some of those guys out there. Jeff Bagwell was there, Craig Biggio, Roger Clemens. Did you see the jersey that Roger Clemens gave Phil?
Yeah, that was nice. The best thing, though, was to see Phil. Phil was in really good shape. We had heard some stuff about him not being too well, but he was excited to see everybody, shook everybody's hand, and he threw out the first pitch. That was exciting.
Yeah, it was. It was really good to see it. Phil Garner's one of the best people you can be around in baseball, and it certainly was real good to be there, to see his family enjoy the day, for him to have the smiles on his face. He was wearing one of his old uniforms from the 2005 season, so it was a real nice special day. Joe, what's going on with you this week?
This is not really baseball related.
Okay.
But my daughter-in-law gave birth to my granddaughter this morning.
Wow! Congratulations.
So we have a brand new granddaughter.
That's awesome,
Maddie. So we got a brand new Astros fan that has joined the family.
Fantastic.
So we have her big brother Tetsu right here staying with us right now. But it's exciting times in the Thompson household, not only for baseball, but for life in general.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations to you and the family on the birth there. That is fantastic. So everybody's doing well, I guess?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody's doing fine. Everybody's doing great. Baby is already got grandpa wrapped around her finger. Yeah. That's just the way it is. She's less than 24 hours old. So, but my grandson knows all about that.
Oh, that's awesome. Is this your first granddaughter?
First granddaughter, yes.
Wow, that's. So, how many does this make for you, Joe?
One grandson, one granddaughter.
Well, that's awesome. So fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic. How old is your grandson?
He's 11.
11. That's great. Yeah. That's so cool. Well, congratulations. That's great news today. So now the Astros just need to get a win today for the granddaughter.
Right. Well, I mean, technically she was born last night, and they got that win.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so they did. So let's get another win though, right?
Right, exactly. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations to you guys, and that's great news, and I'm real happy to hear that. And I know that a lot of other people that know you that are watching this episode, they're going to be thrilled to know that happened, and that everybody's doing fantastic. Awesome news. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Hey, no problem.
So speaking of the Astros and good news, the Astros have been playing quite well lately. They're tied for second, a game out with the Texas Rangers in the AL West, and they're doing quite well. There's been some names that have been contributing here. Isaac Paredes, he's had a nice week. He had another homer yesterday, and he had a walk-off homer the night before. So there have been some bright spots happening here, and some young guys, Colton Gordon, right, who made his major league debut the other night as well.
Yeah, Colton Gordon, he looked pretty good. I mean, I think he gave up 2 runs or something like that, but he looked really good for that new left-hander. So we'll just see how that goes. As you know me, I'm a big Cam Smith fan. I'm always kind of impressed with him. But the young guys are really kind of contributing now. Zach DeZenzo and I know I'm forgetting somebody else, but the young guys are really kind of making a name for themselves. So hopefully they keep it going well. So
Well, they got back to 500, which is great. They struggled to get to 500, and now they're a game over 500, I guess. And
Yeah.
like Joe says, it's the young guys who are coming through.
Yeah.
Altuve's struggling right now, and so are some of the others. Our first baseman is a classic example of he's got to get his swing down a little bit better. But the pitching has been sensational, starting and relief pitching.
Yeah.
yeah.
They have a couple all-stars there before it's all over, Mr. Brown.
Yeah. Bob, who is your Joe talks about Cam Smith a lot. Who is somebody that stands out to you so far early in the season?
Well, I like Dubon. I like the way he plays. I like his attitude. I've had the chance to meet with him. He's a very pleasant young man, and he's in the HEB commercials, as you may know, with the glasses on. But he can hit. I wish he could play a little bit more.
Yeah. He's kind of moved it. The Astros have been really good at having these utility guys or super utility type players who can move around. Marvin Gonzalez was one of those guys. Ledmus Diaz was there as well, and Mauricio Dubon is certainly a really stellar contributor to the Astros. Yeah. So what else is going on, guys? I know that we have the SABR meeting coming up next week. Tell me a little bit. I know you've been talking about it a little bit, Joe. You're gonna speak. You have another speaker coming up. Let's hear about it.
Well, I tell you what. This was going to be just a normal meeting. We had Jimmy Scruggs talking about Christy Mathewson and Walter Johnson. I was going to give my memory about a 1986 game. But we have a couple of things. I don't think I've quite mentioned this yet, but we're electing our chapter officers for the SABR group. That's coming up with the meeting on Monday. We do this once a year. People that want to get involved and take a more active role in the SABR group. We have chapter officer elections once a year. But I tell you what, baseball news kind of trumped. Literally trumped everything we're probably going to talk about because did we hear about what Rob Manfred decided to do with Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson?
That's right.
Decided to remove them from the MLB's ineligible list, and I sent out a little email to the group. And let me tell you, I got some interesting responses.
I'm sure you did.
We're going to talk about this on Monday night a little bit more.
Did you happen to see Barry Bonds' interview about this?
No, I didn't. No,
he was not in favor of it. He had it was actually kind of he spoke, off the cuff. He spoke with a lot of emotion, but he was not happy with that decision at all. And Marty Brennaman came out, the former broadcaster for the Reds. He came out and said that he thought that baseball did Pete Rose wrong, and that they, the family should. I think he said the family should essentially just say no, thank you. That they didn't treat him right when he was alive, and now when he's passed away, and now they're trying to make up for time lost. It just doesn't really matter because he's not with us anymore.
I just don't.
Excuse me, Joe. Go ahead.
I just don't.
Disappointment is he has to wait for 3 years before he can be voted on. I would be hopeful that now he's eligible, that the baseball writers could vote. They can say no; they don't have to vote for him. But I think he ought to be on this year's ballot for 2026. And let the chips fall where they may. He's waited long enough. He
has, and there's no doubt. The numbers are there. It's probably, besides Shoeless Joe, and that whole lore there, it's probably the most controversial besides the steroid era, which was why I found Barry Bonds, his comments, to be very unique, because he was basically talking about himself. Like he was talking about Pete Rose, where he said, well, this is a guy who intentionally lost, or bet against, or those types of things, and he was talking about steroids in his era, and he was saying there was a needle inside every player back then, and he would have been remiss if he didn't do it himself. And I just thought that was a very I don't think it was a very good interview. I'm not sure who it was with, and I don't have the clip here, but if you go out there and you Google it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And he was not in favor of the decision to have Pete Rose off of the ineligible list?
I will say one thing. I'm going to find. I'm very curious how SABR members will respond to this, because one of the great things about SABR is we study every aspect of baseball. There are groups all over the country, and in particular, there's a Black Sox committee that has spent the better part for as long as I have been in SABR. That's all they do. They talk about the Chicago White Sox and that Black Sox scandal. And for what I've seen over the years about the committee itself is it's kind of curious as to how Shoeless Joe will be thought of in all this. It's almost like Shoeless Joe Jackson was a victim. So it would be almost like he would certainly be elected to the Hall of Fame, as in he should always have been there. Whereas Pete Rose, that's a whole nother ball of wax, so to speak. I think more people will be accepting of Shoeless Joe than they will be Pete Rose. That's just from what I've seen over the years, listening to a lot of things that this Black Sox committee has talked about, reading some things about the White Sox and things like that. So it's going to be kind of curious in the next couple of years if Shoeless Joe gets in one year and Pete Rose maybe the next, or maybe Shoeless Joe gets in and Pete Rose never does, or something like that. It'll be kind of curious to see how that goes. But again, there's a lot of things to talk about in SABR for the next several years, at least, because of what my man Fred has done. So
that's right.
Great times.
Do you think that baseball writers, that's part of the problem? Baseball writers are getting older. There's some folks who no longer cover Major League Baseball, but they're still on the rolls. The only one that I know personally is Brian McTaggart. And Brian and I have not talked about this since yesterday, but he may have some influence. He'll know what the direction is, I think, of the other writers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you think in terms of Shoeless Joe, do either of you think that maybe because we have more time, there's no one, from that era, who is around, who's in baseball, that maybe it's looked upon a little bit different, because you do have a lot of people who Pete Rose's career is still real fresh in their minds. They saw him play.
Maybe so. Maybe it's everything. Pete Rose has, to the general public, Pete Rose is not just the baseball hit king. He's everything else that Pete Rose has become, whether it's trouble with the law or accusations or this kind of stuff. The general public knows him. Okay.
Yeah.
Not just for baseball. Whereas Shoeless Joe and the White Sox, but Shoeless Joe in particular, it's more of the baseball fans, maybe those that kind of really know. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, you've probably heard of Shoeless Joe.
Yeah, definitely.
You've probably seen 8 Men Out. You've probably read something about the story and things like that. But I think it's just a different way of seeing two superstars in their time, if we really look at it, and maybe the public is accepting of one as opposed to the other. I don't know. I mean,
10 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Greenville, South Carolina, and being a baseball nut like we all are, I went by his cemetery where Shoeless Joe is buried. Of course, very humble beginnings. And I was amazed what was there with his headstone. There were numerous bats, balls, gloves, shoes, everything you could think of. People just came by and dropped them off at the gravesite as a remembrance of the great Shoeless Joe.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Do you think that we'll see something like that in the future? Do you think that Pete Rose will be like that in the future? We'll see some sort of remembrance, as is there going to be a lore behind, people who look past like you were saying, Joe, the person, some of the other entanglements that he had. Do you think that we might see that down the line in decades to come?
I think maybe if we ever have a player that gets more than 4,000 hits, I mean, I don't know. Or if we get somebody close to breaking Pete Rose's record, I don't know. Maybe in the next 50 years, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
As a reference, I've been to Babe Ruth's cemetery, and Billy Martin's right close by him, and Lou Gehrig's very close also. There's no such outreach they have the nice plaque and all that, but there's nothing other than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, just because you got these guys who have been on the ineligible list, obviously with different backgrounds, different careers and everything. And you see that. And I've wondered at times, is it because, there's this lore of Shoeless Joe Jackson. You've seen his story in movies, not just Eight Men Out, but
Right.
like Field of Dreams, and it's such a romanticized story now. But if you were to go back, 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, even 15, 20 years after that Black Sox story happened, would you have had that romanticism about his career, or would it be kind of like the way people see Pete Rose today? So, that's why I kind of wonder if maybe with some time, people will come to appreciate Pete Rose's numbers and appreciate him for a player for the numbers that he put out there. They won't really see anything else except that.
Yeah, I think maybe as time goes on, maybe so, because there will always be that talk about who really was the greatest hitter of all time. Now you got Ichiro and you got Pete Rose and, you got Ty Cobb. But I mean, really since Ichiro, nobody's kind of even come close to getting close to Pete. So I think if there is a hitter that gets closer and closer, maybe the mystique of Pete 10, 15 years from now will be like, we'll hear more stories about how great of a hitter he was, and we'll hear less about some of the other stuff, the gambling or whatever.
Yeah.
That'll always be there. But maybe if we have a hitter that gets close to eclipsing his record, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. It always,
maybe we'll have somebody this year who's playing today who might who's hitting over 400 and has got a ton of home runs. What a story so far. I realize it's only a 25% of the season, but and I'm no lover of Mr. Judge, but he's having quite a year.
Well, yeah. My thing with Judge is he just strikes out too much. I mean,
yeah.
It's when you got someone that averages 200 strikeouts. This is not me. This is Baseball Reference. Being the baseball nerd that I am, when you have Baseball Referencing basically saying that Judge averages 200 strikeouts a year, and then you have somebody I considered to be the best pure hitter in baseball, somebody like Luis Arraez, for the Padres, who never strikes out. It's probably struck out 197 times in his entire career, or about 7. Almost Tony Gwynn like.
Yeah.
It's just now Judge has gotten a little bit better with the strikeouts, but I don't know. I mean, but he is from New York, and there's that New York persona. And
yeah, there's that whole aura.
As the greatest thing ever. That's right. Yeah, Bob is right though. There could be somebody. If he
how
keeps
many home runs? How many home runs does Judge have right now?
13 or
15,
14.
right?
It's
13, right? Yeah. So
I think it's 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there, we've all seen it firsthand. There is an aura about performing, even if you're striking out, as long as you're hitting the ball far and you're hitting home runs. You're that classic home run hitter. That classic slugger out there. You're not. You're the cleanup hitter. You're not the best hitter in the lineup per se. The guy that's gonna get the extra base hits, who can run the bases really well, who can hit a home run. Like your number 3 guy in the lineup. Judge is kind of your classic cleanup hitter, your classic slugger in our modern era. And and it doesn't hurt that he's wearing the Yankee pinstripes, because it does help his cause, in the popularity as well.
Yeah, it sure does. It's just I think of Judge when we're talking about really good hitters right now. You can think of Judge, but you also have to mention Shohei and Ohtani. And I just feel like somehow Ohtani is kind of being pushed off a little bit to the side while Judge is doing his little thing. And I think it's that whole New York persona thing, doing it in New York. So
yeah,
at least that's what I've seen in the last couple of weeks. So but we'll see.
Imagine if Ohtani was wearing Yankee pinstripes. Television sets would explode everywhere.
Well, that's a whole nother story. I mean, it's bad enough as it is. He's wearing Dodger blue, but not.
Yeah.
But
well, gents,
anyway,
what else is going on here with SABR that you guys would like to talk about before we wrap it up here?
Bob,
I'd
would
like
you
to
like
suggest that? Go ahead. I seem like we haven't got ourselves coordinated exactly, but I'd like to recommend that anybody who wants to know about SABR to come to our meeting just as our guest next Monday at the Spaghetti Western and see what we're doing. And then if they're really serious, they ought to come to the convention in Dallas. It's going to be super duper. It's going to be about 600 people who are all baseball for 5 days. And very reasonable. We got the who's who coming as far as Texas Rangers and other all-stars. So Joe and I are going for sure. And we encourage anybody to want to come. You too, Mike.
Well, fantastic. I'm going to see if I can get away for that. It's a little tough for me to get away from my schedule on a lot of things right now. I actually am thinking if I get away, it's probably going to be to a beach somewhere before anywhere else.
Well, I'll just have to say, it's always been hard to follow anything Bob says because Bob is awesome. He's president emeritus. He's the guy.
Yeah.
But he's right. If we can get a big contingent of Houston fans to show up at the SABR convention, I know Bob and I will probably be decked out at SABR night at Globe Life Stadium when the Rangers are playing the Mariners. That'll sure make everybody happy. But you know what? Hey, that'll be great. That's always fun. And as a chapter, we always get together and have a dinner somewhere. We're still trying to work that out. Our usual suspect of trying to put this together, Maxwell Cates, who's our friend in Toronto. I recently found out he's not coming to the convention. So we're going to have to try to work something out. But as a group, we always go to a restaurant and talk and have a great time as a group. So, yeah, it's really fun. Yes, and I would invite everybody to our meetings. If they can't come on Monday, we are having another meeting in June. We'll start talking about, I forget exactly the date, but we had the third Monday in June. If you can't come to the May meeting, please come to the June meeting. So,
well, the meetings are always a lot of fun. A lot of storytelling. It's a lot of fun. There's good food there at Spaghetti Western. So anybody who is thinking about coming out, certainly get out there. It's on Shepherd. They're right off of I-10, just west of downtown, Spaghetti Western. And of course, if anybody wants to find out more about the SABR chapter here in Houston, they can go to sabr.org. That's SABR Houston.org, sabrhouston.org. And any final thoughts? Bob, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, this has been fun. Thanks for asking me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Joe, Bob, thank you for joining us this week again here on the SABR Report. For Joe and Bob, I'm Mike Acosta. Till next time, so long, everybody.